Welcome to our FAFS Alumni Talk. This is our first session for this semester. The Alumni Talk initiative aims to give our students and graduates the chance to learn directly from the experiences of our successful alumni, how they navigated challenges, built their careers, and made an impact. It is also a great opportunity to strengthen the connection between alumni and our students and community, and while highlighting the diverse career paths and achievements of our alumni. To formally open today's session and extend a warm welcome to our exceptional speaker, it is my privilege to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences, Dr. Ammar Urabi, to the stand.
Thank you, Nadine. It's great to see you all. I hope you're having a good start of the semester after hopefully a restful summer and productive summer. So good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this special edition of the FAFS Alumni Talks, a platform where we reconnect with our alumni, celebrate their journeys, and get inspired by the impact they continue to make in Lebanon and around the world. Today's talk, The Unmapped Road, Navigating Growth Across Cultures, Sectors, and Purpose, could not be more fitting. It reminds us that the path of leadership and transformation are rarely linear, and that it often takes courage, adaptability, and vision to navigate them successfully. It is a pleasure to welcome back to FAFS one of our own, Mr. Rami Boujawde, FAFS class of 2000. Now, you being young, you will think class 2000, that's a long time. Not according to my lens. Now, Mr. Boujawde's career is a testament to the power of innovation and purpose, from his early beginnings in agriculture and at FAFS to his graduate studies at Siam, Khania, Greece, and his impressive career, as you will see, across Canada and the GCC. He has been involved in change management, certification, and operations with the Sodexo and Compass groups, F&B, major groups, of course, related to waste management, all of these things, both leaders in facilities and support life services. Most notably, during his tenure as Chief Operating Officer, COO of Baritech. Mr. Boujawde helped shape Lebanon's entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems, supporting countless startups and empowering young professionals to turn ideas into thriving businesses. Today, as managing partner of Fermendom, he continues to champion sustainability, circularity, and transformative initiatives in environmental engineering and the agri-food sector. Needless to say how important this sector is today in today's Lebanon. Last time I was checking one website about the level of pollution in different places. You can imagine, unfortunately, we rank third globally in terms of the overall pollution, which is terrible compared to previous days. Beyond his professional achievements, Mr. Boujawde's commitment to education, social causes, and community engagement reflects the very values we seek at FAFS to instill in every one of you. Rami, we are proud to call you one of our own, and we thank you for being with us today. Everyone, please join me in welcoming and giving a warm welcome to Mr. Rami Boujawde.
I can start. Okay, perfect. Here we go. Just a second. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. كيف الحماس والطاقة؟ نص بعد الغدا. مشكلة هيدا. Okay. So أنا اسمي رامي مثل ما قال دين علبي. I'm a graduate of FAFS 2000. We'd like to call ourselves ARIC 99 مثل ما كلكم تعرفوا خريجين الزراعة هون. I'm going to share with you my story. I rarely do this, and it took me a bit of effort to think what would I talk to students at university about my career, what took me to become who I am today, and how my path through this growth have been shaped by different circumstances, decisions, and approaches. And as was mentioned by Dean Olabi, it's with me, it was never about a linear career. As you know, you might feel or see some people that have been through a lengthy academic career or in a ministry or in a company growing from point A to becoming a CEO. Mine was a bit different. So I'm going to take you through my journey from my early days up till today, sharing with you some of those experiences and what I learned along the way. Is that okay for everybody? Sure? Okay. You can cut me anytime. You can ask any questions you have. It's a conversation. So let me start by... Okay. On. Off. On. Okay. تاني ميل. على ايدك. شو؟ تكنولوجي. مش حال. فينا نكبس. عندنا مشكلة. لك اللي بلعتني سلايد وشغله. Okay, perfect. So, I was born in 1977, in the beginning of the civil war of Lebanon, in a town, in a small village called غابة, the forest. ضلهم من أول صغير يعملوا لي harassment على قصة الغابة لأنه بتعرف بالغابة people don't take it very seriously, but it's a small village in Metin area, and I was shaped by a village culture, a small village where everybody knows everybody, everybody is connected to everybody, and some of those village values are there. Fast forward to 1986, I lost my dad, and life changed ever since. At the age of 8, I learned that life is a bit more difficult when there is a war, there is a single parent, and I was the youngest at home. So I was the one left usually to deal with at the end because teenage kids are more difficult to handle. So I had to learn my way to cruise through difficult times, to get my things the way I want, and be able to accommodate all my needs through connections, resources, and influence. Fast forward in 1991 or 1990, just at the end of the war, I was very lucky to go to Switzerland. I've got an invitation by a family in Switzerland who have adopted a child from Lebanon during the civil war and has my age, and I was invited to spend 1 full month in Switzerland. And that was, for somebody who was 12 years old, another life-changing experience. Imagine 1990, the end of the civil war. Lebanon was completely destroyed, and I was moved from a place where I knew my village, my school, the small Lebanon that we knew because we couldn't travel around, to a city or a country that was celebrating 700 years of independence or formation. Switzerland, as you know, is one of those democracies that are flourishing. It's known for its environment, its high standard of living, and so on. So there, I had my first iced tea before iced tea came to Lebanon. I had my first interaction with a Macintosh before the Mac was known as Mac as it is now. And I've had my first water splash in an aqua park also before this happened. But above all, what I've learned is that citizenship is taught and practiced at home. That everybody is responsible for his country from every small action, from not littering, from participating in local activities, from voting. So I came back to Lebanon with that spirit and hope in mind that one day I'll have a role to play in this country to shape the Lebanon that I love and I want to be part of. Fast forward to 1992, no, not 92, 94, I joined the Scouts movement, where it was another shaping moment for me. I stayed there from that time until 1993 till 2000, including university years. And I've learned along the way that those values that I've learned through Scouts have shaped also the way I look and do what I do today. A lot of those values from community support, from soft leadership, from responsiveness, from convincing, influencing, and so on, were taught at a younger age, dealing with younger people or being taught by slightly elderly people. So I've learned to become a person who is able to serve, able to support, and a team player along the way. Fast forward to 1996, last year of school, decision. What university I need to join, what faculty I want to join, and why. I had two lines of interest. I wanted to be either an architect or an agronomist. And when I had the choice to choose between both of them, I decided to go for agriculture. And I think as many of you who have been through agriculture or are studying agriculture, when you join in, you don't know what a wealth of knowledge and experience and preparation this faculty would take you through during the next 4 years. So I joined in agriculture, and here was another opening moment. AUB was a hub of multiculturalism, democracy, people coming from the left wing, right wing, central, people from the north, the south, the Beka. A lot of those people I never interacted with coming from a village. And that was, again, another eye-opener, understanding the others, understanding differences, and integrating. And I became a very passionate AUBite, involved in everything that's happening. But during that time as well, I needed to work. So I had my first job in Jaffet, in the basement of Jaffet, as a person helping in the binding department. At that point, computer system was slightly limited. All the books had a card, and the people need to write. So I spent about 6 months during my student years, first year, binding books and learning how a library would function at the back end. But that was not exciting. I wanted to be more involved in what I'm studying. So I joined the pathology lab with Dr. Abu Jawde, and I've spent a number of time cleaning their lab, all the agar tubes that were old enough and smelly enough to put in autoclaves and clean them up. We had a lot of activities happening on the roof of this building. So we have to pot plants, work with diseases, viruses, whitefly. So I had, along with a few of my friends who did a student job, I had the opportunity to really learn hands-on what agriculture was. So I moved from the pathology lab to the soil lab, to the greenhouse, to work and student jobs at ARIC, including opening a small decane in ARIC to provide snacks to the students. And the last job I had here was what we had as a computer lab. And at that time, I think laptops was really a luxury for everybody. So I think we had the first computers. The first computer lab was at the end of on the second floor here. And I was there supporting other students in terms of building it. So along the way within FAFS, I've learned that with time, things don't happen overnight. And everything that we need would need its time to grow. Like every plant we grow, it doesn't happen overnight. A plant, an animal, a living organism will take a cycle for it to grow. Sure, we can make the environment more easy. We can have better crops. We can have healthier animals. We can have a better life. But time is of the essence. We need to go through it. We need to live through it, and we need to experiment. So that was my time at AUB. At that point, I was as well part of the SRC, the Student Representative Council. I led and participated in a number of clubs, and I think this has shaped a lot of who I am today. So for some of you who are part of AUB and enjoying campus life today, I highly invite you to be active. Not only to spend time on campus, but to be involved on campus. Student jobs, student clubs, activities, and so on would really shape who you are for the next 20 to 30 years, very easily. During my last year, I got a scholarship to go to a network of university called SIAM. They have 4 campuses across the Mediterranean, mainly in Greece, Italy, Spain, and France. And I decided to move into management and economics. I've always been a fond of history and geography, and I thought economics, based on what I've learned here at FAFS, could play an interesting role with all of that. And this is how I decided to go through that journey, and Greece offered me another experience. Also an international community of students, an interesting country to live in. I was living on the island of Crete. Nobody would mind having a master's degree there. And I had the opportunity to interact with professors from all around the globe because we had visiting professors. And there I met my professor, Professor Van Dijk, who is one of the leading cooperative experts around the globe. And he invited me, along with a scholarship, to do my master's research in Wageningen in the Netherlands. And that took me to another experience as well. Netherlands was another eye-opening country for me because I've learned from their culture that civic responsibility and ethics were very important. I don't know if you know, but the Dutch live, most of the country is below sea level. And the Dutch have built their country piece by piece by putting dikes that would protect the land and then pumping water out. So the Netherlands as a country, I think 70 to 75% of it is underwater. And in their culture, they learn that everybody is responsible because in their culture, if somebody fails a dike, everybody will suffocate or will suffer. So technically, they had to make sure that everybody plays a role and plays it right. So it was entrenched in their culture, and that was an interesting approach for somebody coming from a Mediterranean that is full of emotions, but we never go direct. So we always bring in a lot of emotions, we walk through the lines, and we bring drama as well, which is not bad, but anyway. Another thing that I learned from the Netherlands was that they do respect people across all sectors. A janitor and the king are equally treated if it's about an appointment. So if you have an appointment with your janitor and the king calls you for a meeting, you can tell him very respectfully that I do have another meeting and I would not come to your meeting. Another thing that we don't have here, because we appreciate or value hierarchy. The higher people are, the more you need to become, respondent to their needs. And that also shaped who I am. Any questions so far? Am I boring you? Okay, great. Another anecdote about the Netherlands, and it's interesting to also learn, I also learned from it, was one time my professor invited me to a barbecue for his son. So we were invited to a tiro game, shooting plates, and then there was a barbecue after that. And as a good Lebanese, what do we do when there is a barbecue? You go on the grill. As a person, you go on the grill, you manage the grill, because as a good host, as a good friend, that's what you do. So I went on the grill and started grilling all those pieces of meat that were next to the grill. And took the meat, took the salmon, took the chicken, and started grilling. And after about 15 minutes, I see the wife of my professor coming to me, all yellow. And I was, oh my God, what did I do? And then I learned that in the Netherlands, each person grills his own meat, and at the end of the barbecue, they are billed per piece of meat used. And I think I grilled probably 6 times what they want. So that was another lesson learned about culture and things. We need to learn, we need to appreciate, we need to integrate cultures rather than just jumping in with assumption of how people do things. Then reality hit. Finished my master's. I've studied cooperatives, the new way of running cooperatives with shares, trading, and so on, and came back to Lebanon full of hope that I will find a job here. That was 2002. And it was a better time than today, but as usual, Lebanon, in terms of jobs, we've always exported people out of the country. So I started researching, couldn't find much jobs here, and decided that it was time to move to the Gulf. That was the place to go. And slowly, I went through interviews, which I think many of you would go through. And what you have in mind initially would not necessarily lend you to where you are. So that's another turning point for me. And I've had the chance to be introduced to Sodexo. I applied to a job, and I had a job for a quality health safety manager. So it was new to me, so I had to research before the interview, be prepared, and interview. And I had to sell myself with my management experience, agriculture experience, and all the few nutrition courses that I had, that I understood food safety and I could sell myself to it. And luckily, I got the job. So there, it was my first professional job. I had to be part of a culture where we were 2,300 men in a company working across the country. And I was reporting to the country director, and I had to influence and enforce quality standards, what you call the ISO 9000, the ISO 14000. At that time, there was no ISO 22000, which is a food safety, it was a HACCP, and others on multiple communities and people coming from different cultures. So we had the South Asians, we had the Filipinos, we had the Arabs, we had the Europeans, and I had a responsibility to influence change and standards on people that were older than me, of different cultures, different priorities, and so on. And this is where I brought in a lot of the leadership skills that I've learned during my Scouts Day, during my days at AUB, to be able, and the cultural experience that I've had in the different places that I were, to learn how to cruise through this labyrinth of challenges, because it was very difficult to deal with it. So from the Indians or the Bengalis that would shake their hand for everything that you would tell them and they would not understand, I had to learn the way to make sure that they understood what food safety was about, to the arrogant European that didn't want to follow any of the rules because he was taught to do otherwise, from the manager who only cared about his bottom line and could bypass anything. I had to deal with them. And that also helped me learn my way through things, and I started getting recognized by the leadership. And at that point, they gave me another challenge. They said, we have a project for you because now you're doing your job extremely well. Are you ready to take on more? And I said, yes, why not? And I was given the opportunity to launch the two largest IKEA stores in the world, where we were supporting them in terms of kitchen staff, facilities management, and laundry services for their staff. So I had to recruit 200 people from different parts of the world, ensure that they adapt to the culture of IKEA, and bring them all in to deliver on two sites, one in Riyadh, one in Jeddah. And there also, I've learned a new culture, a new way of doing things, which was the IKEA way. I think all of you have been or heard about IKEA. Very structured, very organized, very efficient, different priorities and different values. And that was another also shaping moment in my life, where I've learned that whatever you know, there's always a way to improve. And that was the IKEA way. So keep an open eye. Everything could go in a box. You know, those are some of their values to build on. Everything could be dismantled and refixed in an efficient way. All those also shaped who I am and built from me the person who I am today. So going back to Saudi times, I launched IKEA. Another anecdote there, we had, for the people who know IKEA outside of the GCC and now in GCC, IKEA have two restaurants in their store across the board. They have the main restaurant on the first floor, and they have what they call the exit cafe. And on the exit cafe globally, they have three key items that they sell: ice cream, Mary Cream, cinnamon bun, and hot dogs. Saudi culture is against hot dogs. They don't like it. It's not common. They don't like to eat it. It's unacceptable. So at that point, we had a the manager of the food and beverage was an interesting guy. He said, why don't I bring the culture into IKEA rather than the opposite way? And decided to bring in chicken shawarma as the third item on the exit buffet. And he needed to bring it in. Not knowing what shawarma would take, we had to recruit shawarma chefs from across the region. So we had 2 shawarma chefs from Turkey, 2 from Lebanon, and 2 from Syria joining in to help run the shawarma stand. And there I also learned that as Mediterraneans, we have our own way of doing things, and if we don't adapt, we lose. And that's what happened. Out of 6 chefs who came in with their own recipe, their own way of marination, their own way of things, only 2 out of the 4 managed to last for 3 months because they were stubborn in their own way. So again, another lesson, flexibility, adaptability, alignment takes you a long way. Fast forward that, I took on an additional challenge to cover Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And Qatar was passing through, the Sodexo Qatar was a country of operation for Sodexo that moved from 300 staff to 3,000 staff in 2 years. So imagine the cultural differentiation, the cultural differences between a company that have its own culture, like you'd have the AUB culture, and then you add to it 10 times the students. What would happen? You're going to lose all the culture in. So I was tasked to structure the company and bring in all the value structures, processes of the organization into a company that was scaling at a very fast pace, having to adapt, and I managed to break through. Again, sometimes too fast is not the best, and that was another learning for me as I moved through my career. Whenever I recruited, whenever I grew an organization, there was always a balance that you always have to have between how fast and how good you can grow. 2007, I was married with a child and a pregnant wife, and our papers to go to Canada came in. And as any good Lebanese, a second passport is a blessing. So I had to choose between getting a promotion and leading a big role in Oman or deciding to move to Canada. We chose the later. So here we come, planning. We took the decision to move to Canada in January. And everybody was challenging me, why January? And I said, if we do the calculation and look at the laws of statistics, people who move to Canada, usually as immigrants, move in the spring and in the summer, where the weather is good, the climate is nice, picnics are fun, and everybody is happy. But the spring and the summer are periods where companies are in the midst of their growth, summer comes in, and by the time you hit the fall, you know, reality hits. Your budget is gone, the weather is colder, you know, the temperature is dropping, ice is coming, and you cannot survive. So I said, let's go in January, go when very few people would go, hit the winter, and at least, if we don't find a job, the weather will get better. So one of the factors would shift on the positive side of things. Luckily, my reputation went ahead of me. And when I went to meet with the Sodexo team that were in Canada, they said, we've heard about you. And I've had my country manager in Saudi, my country manager in Qatar, and my regional director in Paris. The 3 of them independently have sent recommendations letter to the office there. If Rami comes to you, this is what you have. And so when I reached to them, they said, we know about you, but what you have been taught to work in Saudi is not needed here. So I had to research and say, okay, I've invested 5 years of my life learning all those standards, becoming the leading figure in Sodexo in the region, writing the HACCP manual for all those companies in the region. And now all what I do is done by the municipality, and it's a standard day-to-day activity by the chef in the kitchen. There is nobody who audits, nobody who certifies. So I had to learn another reality. So they offered me a job. They said, we have for you a job that is challenging, but we need to know if you're ready for it. And I said, what is it? One of their top 20 accounts was a conference and a convention center that had 550 bedrooms, 70 meeting rooms, about 8 restaurants, an Irish pub, cafes, and so on. And they said, we want you to be their food and beverage director. And to tell you the truth, coming from a village called Ghebe in Mount Lebanon, working in Saudi with major labor camps where they eat rice and curry, even working with IKEA, I still confuse up till today if I need to put the fork on the left or on the right. So I said, should I go for it or not? I had a pregnant wife, a child that was in her first year, and I had my limited amount of cash in my pocket. So I met with the manager with whom I'm going to work, and we clicked. What I liked about him is that he was open and candid with me. He told me, listen, I come from the Fairmount School, which is one of the leading schools, like the Four Seasons here. I've been doing this business for all my life. I just got promoted to a general manager, and I have issues with budgeting, accounting, procurement, standards, contracts. Can you handle those? I said, I've done this before. I can handle this. He told me, if you're able to teach me a lot of those, and I can teach you the other thing, and we'll win. And that's what happened. So in the back office, I used to work with him on everything that I needed him to succeed in. So he managed to fix his budget, his profitability, his staff management, the union contract, and all of that. And I came in and I was learning from him how to run a banquet dinner for 1,000 people, where the fork should go and how many forks we need to have, how to run a military banquet with 7 sets of courses, how to run a wedding, how to run an Irish pub, and what's the difference between a Guinness and a Plinser, and so on and so forth. So during that period, I had an amazing career shift, lots of learning, long hours, 8 cups of venti of Starbucks per day that killed my stomach. But I've learned, and I've learned along the way that what I was taught at AUB, what I was taught at a younger age in terms of shifting, adapting, aligning, and understanding cultures could get me to a different place. So that have got me to get Martin a promotion in a year and a bit, and took his place. So I took his place, took over the general management of the conference center, and it was time for me to learn. The hotel was big. I had 200 unionized staff. So I had also to learn how to manage unionized staff, working with the Gulf countries where everybody is submissive, everybody would listen, mainly all men, to working in a community where women leadership was there, unionized employees that had their way, their contract, their priorities in. So all of that was another learning practice for me, that without the agility, without the understanding of the culture, without cruising through difficulties and learning on every step, I couldn't have managed to go through. One thing that I did not learn up until then is that being a workaholic, which I was and still am to a certain extent, does not get you to succeed and become a successful person. So after those 8 to 10 venti cups of Starbucks every day, I reached to a point, because I've had a shortage in the management team and I was working 18 hours, to a burnout. And there I learned that in life, we need to always have some sort of balance. Like in nature, we have days and nights. We have a flowering season and a growth season. We have a season of mating for animals and a season where they grow their children. We needed to make sure that as a human, we have a balance between life, family, fun, and hard work and experience. So that lesson taught me that it was time for me to change my mindset. And this is where I decided to drop what I was doing, take a break, reflect on what I have, and build my next move. So my next move took me in Canada to another city that was about 12 hours away by car, moved my family, and started leading a convention center, a bit like what you have here with the Forum or Seaside Arena and so on, where exhibitions and all of that happen. And I've had to learn all the exhibition industry along with what I had. But one thing I learned along the way is that influence is as important as hard work. And for us to be able to succeed, we need to be able to influence others, to be involved with others, to interact. So soon enough, I joined the Rotary Club, which was a prominent club in the area that had a number of people that were involved. We had the chief of police, the mayor, the head of the hospital, many of the business people, many of the community activists, and so on were there. And during that period, I also learned that, we're getting short, I'm gonna move faster. I've learned that influence is as important as hard work, because without influence, people will not notice you, will not see what you're doing, and will not get you there. 2014, Lebanon. I came back to Lebanon in 2014 with 4 children, 4 daughters. So we came with 4 daughters, Hannah and I, who is also a graduate of FAFS, and decided to come back. We had that aspiration of coming back to Lebanon to give back, but also the worry that coming back to Lebanon would mean that we need to find jobs, maybe move to the Gulf, partially, maybe find jobs. But we were keen on giving back. We said it's time for us at that age to give back. So I met Maroon, who was my manager and my mentor for the last 11 years, and we've had a conversation. He told me, listen, I have for you a job, nothing compared to what you've had, but I like your character, I like what you've built over the years. I don't see an interlink with what you have, but here you go. He told me I have 12 people, 3 buildings, programs around entrepreneurship. Would you take it and be my deputy? I had to think about it. In parallel, I had a job to manage, I think, 25 outlets for a restaurant chain across 8 countries, lots of travel, lots of interesting things, aligned with what I've learned, but I decided to stay where I am. And this is where the last 11 years was called my home. It was Berytech. And for those of you who don't know Berytech is an innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem player that grew from the time I joined from 12 employees now to 100 employees. And during that experience, I've managed to grow the programs, integrate something that's very dear to me, is where I brought in agriculture, food science, and engineering into innovation. And I built the first agri-tech accelerator in the region. I also built the first cluster for SMEs in innovation called COOT. I've run a regional program on water, energy, and food nexus, where we supported companies scale and raise millions of dollars in capital. And I've run a number of programs around sustainability, environment, and so on. During that journey, also, we've had to pass through different things. So one, when I joined Berytech was considered a large, old entity. We were, at that time, about 12 years in business. There was a lot of money in the ecosystem, and a lot of ecosystem players, incubators, accelerators were flourishing. And we were seen as an old entity. So I had to cruise through and open my own challenge, my own vertical, which was around agriculture. And when I did it, I thought it was going to be a happy marriage, bringing technology, agriculture, engineering in one place and creating something very sexy. And it wasn't at all for the audience. The engineering wanted to be in their own place. The technologists wanted to be in their own place, and nobody saw the sector as the right sector to drive. So we had to activate. I had to use all the skills that I had, along with my team, to create a whole scenario, a whole pitch, and move around from campus to campus, faculty to faculty, and convince people of influence, students, that this is the right thing, and this is the right future. And that's how we also succeeded. Because I think we're getting out of time. So during the last period, I've learned to build systems. I've learned that for us to be able to create things sustainably, we need to be able to build and design systems that work, and not only achieve successes through minimal actions. So for systems that scale, we need proper governance. We need the right people in the right place at the right time and with the right effort and support to get where they are. That's how we create systems that scale. Circularity is core to our next steps in the world. So look at your future, look at the way you build things. There's so much potential in regenerative economies, circular economies, and so on. So there's a lot of sustainable models that you could build to build on that. Building has been something that I've always enjoyed doing. So I'm building on that and I'm helping others build. And I decided at the age of 47 that it was time for me also to become an entrepreneur after mentoring about 11 entrepreneurs, 11 years of entrepreneurs. So it was my time for me to move. So skills that taught me along the way for the years ahead are analytical thinking. We always need to make sure that we use our brain, we analyze what we're doing, and we make sure our decisions are not only based on emotions, but based on data-driven decisions that would help us really scale and grow. Empathy is core, especially when you move around cultures, when you move around people of different interests, worries. When I was working with entrepreneurs, all the fears and worries about the uncertainty, without empathy, you cannot cruise or penetrate in any person's heart, mind, or structure. Seeing the big picture is important. So by designing systems rather than tools, you get a long way. Adapting is core. And for leadership, if we don't collaborate, also system will not be built. So I'll end my session with those 10 lessons from my journey. So the first lesson I learned is that we need to start before we're ready. Don't wait until you have everything perfect to start. I've learned how to put the fork and knife left or right after I accepted the job. I've learned to support entrepreneurs before I learned what entrepreneurship was all about. So things would take time, will improve things, but you would never get to your ideal place if you want to learn it all ahead of time. So start before you're ready. Let your values be your compass. Never accept to do things that are against your values. That will lead to chaos. That will lead on the long term for you not to be accepted where you are. So values are super important. Work with your hands before you lead with your head. Bring some heart into it, always. Seek exposure, not just experience. So you can be the smartest guy or girl, you can be the most efficient person, but if people around you do not notice what you're doing, do not interact with you, you don't showcase your skills, you will not get there very fast or very hard. So please make sure that you seek exposure, but not exposure alone. Both would work together. Learn to lead across differences. The hardest way is to have a team that is vocal, that would challenge you and will get you to where you are. But if you lead across differences, you know how to convince, you know how to align, you know how to accept when you're wrong and acknowledge it and adjust it. People will respect you and you'll be able to get a long way. Don't confuse movement with progress. Not all the time when you have a lot of busy days working on things that you're progressing. Sometimes you're just spinning your wheel. Build system, not just solution. Choose purpose over fast gain. The rewards are much bigger. And reinvention has no age limit. So you can always find your next goal, your next career move. Just prepare for it, move into it, and enjoy the ride. Legacy is built in layers. So don't wait and say, I'm going to have a legacy. It's step by step is how you build who you are, how people accept you, how you accept others, and how you build. Thank you very much. Sorry, طولت عليكم كثير. Questions? Anybody has questions? No questions? Yes. I was passionate about it to a certain extent, but I learned to appreciate agriculture along every career move I've had. What you learn at school here is system thinking, approach, big picture, being challenged, learning how to present and be challenged by others, interacting with others. AUB and the faculty itself have brought a lot of who I am today. And yes, I enjoyed what I was majoring in, but to tell you the truth, today, I'm so proud that this was the career that I took at that time. And there's so much that you learn from it because you're so much exposed to different things. Maybe it's small doses, and that's what differentiates us probably from somebody who's studying through a very specific line. But that could help you. If your career is to take you through different passes, agriculture or the Faculty of Agriculture take you a long way. Other questions? Yes, Maya.
Rami, I just want to, you started your career, in something which is not really based on what you studied at university. So you were in agriculture, did your master's in management, and then you embarked on food safety in Sodexo. So what lesson, what can you tell everybody here? Everybody is going to be graduating, looking for a job. Do they look for only something related to their own major? Venture into something else? Did you need any additional certifications? I don't know if
Sure.
what you can tell us about that.
Continuous learning, I haven't highlighted this, but continuous learning is always important. And as I highlighted a bit, and I will continue to do so, it will be very difficult to just venture into something that you really want to do. So, but don't choose anything. Choose what you want. But any lessons learned. So when I moved into the quality, health, safety, and environment, I brought in some of the quality management process that I've learned in university. I brought my nutrition and food safety courses and what I've learned in the pilot plant and so on into equation. But I have to learn along the way, and I had to learn quickly because I was referred to as the expert. I had to learn and get certification in auditing, in understanding those standards, and so on. But trust me, if you're moving into your career move, be open, research what people are offering you, open a wider scope of what you're looking for, and see some sort of a crossing with what you've learned. Because as I mentioned, AUB would get you a lot of the foundations to enter almost anywhere you want. If you have the opportunity to be exposed to different things, go ahead. I will. Today the world is so much connected, and the more you're exposed to different things, the better it is. So if you're studying agribusiness today, and there is a cost on business sustainability or data analytics at OSB, or any other thing that you're passionate or want to know about, go for it. The more you have exposure and you're exposed to courses that are elective, you can be exposed to, could prepare you for the next move, go for it. Other question? Yes.
Thank you. Mentioned for the recording. Okay. You've mentioned something regarding building bridges across communities.
Yes.
And something regarding cooperatives.
Yes.
So would you mind elaborating on those points and maybe if they're connected?
Sure. Okay. So for people who I've studied in university during my master's, I've worked on the models of cooperatives that are traded by shares. So the farmers have moved from the fact of just the concept of cooperatives into really adding value to what they plant or what they grow in order to manage economically the output and the quality. So if you look at Europe, for example, a lot of the larger cooperatives that are known, Friesland Campina, Rabobank, etc., are all based on cooperatives with financial modeling. Unfortunately, Lebanon did not get there, and our approach to cooperatives is not yet at the maturity that needs to. The laws are good, the application is not there. Having worked with, for example, when it comes to just the concept of cooperatives, today one of the things that I'm working a lot on in terms of community building in the agriculture space is working with input suppliers, or not input suppliers, but processors like agro-processors with people that produce crop, which we call contract farming. But ensuring that through contract farming, the interaction is fair and just. Because if you only have a monopoly, then the control is not there. So it has to be a win for the farmer, a win for the processor, and together they go up. And we have very successful models in Lebanon. The poultry sector has a lot of contract farming. The wine industry has a lot of contract farming. Some of the chips factory like Dahar Food is on contract farming basis and so on. So that's at the agriculture side. In general, at the place of collaborating and interacting with people, a lot of my work, especially in the last 10 years, was bringing what we call an entrepreneurship ecosystem together, having people working together, because an entrepreneur, like a child, needs a village to grow. So we need to have people who would get him access to financing, access to markets, mentoring, coaching, etc. So we need a lot of people that would work around our entrepreneurs in Lebanon to give them the right approach. And a lot of my legacy in that space was connecting people together. Other questions? That's it. Thank you.
آخر سؤال إذا بتسمح لي. مستر رامي
Yes.
هون.
Yes.
يعطيك العافية. خلاص على عيني وراسي.
Rami, thank you.
أهلا وسهلا.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I have a class. You can outside at the reception. You can ask whatever you want. I took the lead.